We'll be moving immediately to the third panel, spreading precious ideas. So what do we need to develop the Egyptian brokerage market? This is the wide question. Insurance brokerage is the channel connecting customers on one side with insurance companies. How can we boost the broker's skills? What are the global leading practices building increasing trust with customers? How can we expand the service to provide comprehensive risk management and focusing on niche and specialized offers? Hopefully, we'll be able to answer those questions through the next session. I'd like to invite our moderator, Mr. Joseph Azar, CEO, Nasco Re France. Mr. Azar. I'll be letting you introduce to the other panelists, Mr. Amr Sertawi, CEO of Middle East and North Africa, Aon Benfield. Hello. Mr. Habib Jalouk, Executive Board Member, Shadid Re. And Mr. Omar Gemei, Managing Director, Marsh Egypt. Hello, Mr. Omar. And Mr. Wael Khatib, Chairman, MENA Operations, Lockton. So let's have opening notes, general notes for the audience here.
Is it working? Thank you for introducing us, and we'll wait for our colleague Joe to kickstart the session. But I think because of the audience, we wanted an interactive session hopefully today, rather than us speaking about the future of the industry, especially in Egypt. I think the audience should engage with us more and ask questions rather than us only putting presentations or speaking about our experiences outside the country. I have my colleagues. I'll act as a moderator till Joe arrives.
Okay, but
yeah?
I do agree with you that it's much more beneficial if we have this session in a more interactive manner. And
Joe
arrived. Joseph Azar arrived, our star. So I'll leave the floor to you, Mr. Azar, and I'd like to call, there's one panelist missing, right? Mr. Habib Jalouk. Hello, Mr. Jalouk. How are you? So I'll leave the floor to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start by a thank you for Mr. Ala Zuhairi and for the Insurance Federation for hosting this rendezvous. We are delighted to be here, myself and the panelists, and hope to spend quality time with you and count very much on the audience to have an interesting discussion and useful interaction. I'll start by introducing the panel to go faster because I know we have to land on time. There is lunch waiting for all of you. I'll start by Wael. My friend Wael is the driving force behind the expansion of Lockton in the MENA region. He's a chairman. He's as well the senior partner of Lockton DIFC, now cruising successfully with 6 offices and 200 employees. Wael is an old veteran. He started his career with ADNIC in Abu Dhabi, where he was member of management when he left to pursue a role of broker in London at Lloyd's. Most importantly, Wael is father to 3 insurance professionals. Another word about Amr Sertawi. Amr is a software engineer. He started his career with a couple of reinsurers, regional reinsurers, ARIG and Trust, then moved to to the broking industry, where he succeeded in successfully building a good portfolio for Aon Benfield. He's now the CEO of Aon DIFC. Habib Jalouk. Habib is an executive director at Shadid Re, member of the senior management. He's engineer by background. He started his career with Swiss Re, where he was engineering underwriter and member of management as well. He has a master's degree in civil engineering. So we have 2 engineers on board. Omar is Chief Executive Officer for Marsh in Egypt and Jordan. He started his career in Houston, Texas, where he was insurance analyst for downstream property, looking after business coming from North America. So a very good exposure to business. Then he moved to Dubai to handle power. And now he is in Egypt, looking after Egypt and Jordan. I think that's it. And would like to give you an idea how we are going to conduct this session. I think we'll be starting with the topic you know very well. The topic is how can we enhance the broker's role in this market. This is not an easy topic in today's environment where this revolution and digitalization is trying to give a perception that it's over for the brokers, that it's a complete disintermediation that is coming. I wouldn't agree, and I think neither of the panelists here, we are all coming from the broking industry. So we will be trying to address this issue together. And we'll start with Wael giving a general overview, the general introduction on the broker's role and the cultural constraints in our markets. We will not be taking the PowerPoint presentation for obvious reasons in order to control time, unless you feel. So, but I have prepared few questions, specific questions. What is the broker contribution towards market development? Is the supply role without deeper attention to relation and value creation viable? The personal lines shifting today, they are really shifting to different channels, different than brokers. Does this mean that the brokers have to reposition themselves and must look for new niche? Is technology, the fourth question, is technology pushing the frontiers of insurability? In a connected world, we are today with Internet of Things, we are moving towards a new era where we do online protection in a way. So would that create new opportunities for brokers? With all this landscape transformation, brokers will inevitably have to reinvent their operating model. Would that mean more consolidation in the market? These are the specific questions. We'll try to go through, but I'll start with the introduction of Wael.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. I think we are lucky today that the audience is from our industry, so it is easy to speak our language, and hopefully we address together what to start with, in which capacity the broker operate, and the role of the broker generally to kickstart the whole discussion. As you are aware, and I'm not going to educate my colleagues because we are all, I think, know exactly where we stand. We have 3 roles as a broker usually, whether it's the direct broker, retail broker to start with, then a reinsurance broker, then a retro broker. But in these 3 capacities, the role is the same actually. The clients are different, the purchasing needs of each of these clients are different, but the role of the broker remains the same, is to look after the interests of that particular client, whether it's the direct retail client or whether it's the insurance company or the insurance company. Everyone will buy reinsurance, and the broker have a role to play in these 3 transactions. When we come to retro, it's not only, it doesn't stop there, it could go on and on and on, and we are aware of that, all of us. I'll talk about the role which applies to all these participants, from our perspective. I was a buyer at one point of time, so I do understand the needs of the buyers. I usually categorize the role of the broker into 4 areas. I call them pre-placement, placement, implementation of the plan, and then administration or service, I would call it. This is where actually the most important area of our role is, to provide service after we deliver the product which we are supposed to be delivering to our clients, be it a direct client, be it an insurance company, be it an insurance company. Pre-placement, let's start with the pre-placement. What our job is actually is, our job first to understand the clients, to understand their needs, to understand their structure, whether it's organizational structure, whether it's financial structure. And we're not supposed to be transactional, we're supposed to add value. So clients rely on our advice because we can benchmark. We have more than that particular client in our portfolios to be able to benchmark them, not only in the same territory, but with international brokers in different territories in the world, and we are able to call on experiences from different parts of the world. So it is the biggest role for us is actually prior to the placement itself, is identifying the needs, identifying the solutions to the client, discussing it with the client, looking at their risk register. This is our role, is actually to look at the risk register of our clients, understand where their concerns are. Each client have different priorities. Some people have, they are risk averse, others have a huge risk appetite. We need to establish this with our principles. The balance sheet, it's all about protecting balance sheet. In the 3 roles we play, whether it's direct broker, insurance broker, retro broker, is about protecting a balance sheet. We need to ensure that should loss occur or should an incident occur, it does not cripple the company financially. It does actually provide the cash for the company in order to continue operating. It's all about cash too. Our role is to provide, to shift capital from one source to another source. Insurance is all about capital. So that's actually is the most important role, is pre-placement, is engaging with the clients and understanding what exactly the client, not only what he needs, but also what other solutions are available in other parts of the world. That's our job, to advise our clients. When it comes to placement, which is the second phase of our role in the industry, is finding the right products for the client. The products at the reasonable cost, at affordable costs. On insurance, I think everything is insurable as long as it meets our principles, being fortuitous, being not against the law, all these principles of insurance we talk about or we studied. But then there is a cost element here. If the cost is prohibitive to the client, then he shouldn't buy the insurance. I can take it under my balance sheet. I'll put it in my operating expenses. This is also our job, and the insurance is not the only solution for direct clients. They can transfer risk. We talk about risk transfer mechanism, not only in the insurance, but there is contractual transfer of risks, as you are aware, especially when it comes to contracts. Once we find the product, is to cut, as I suggested, the cost-effective method, and which is affordable. Once this is done and coverages are identified and markets are identified, and it's our job also to provide security to the client. As a broker, it's our job to provide security. Security in the means of placing the business in a financially reasonable companies. We have liabilities, we have exposures, we are in the position of a trust. We cannot go to our clients and get the cheapest product from companies which do not meet certain financial standards in order to meet their obligations when claims occurs. This is completed, then we come into an implementation plan. The implementation is reviewing the policy wording, making sure that the actual contracts which we have established for our clients meet their requirements, and there is no vague terminology in it. I know that we don't practice this all the time. I'm talking about the principles, so please bear with me on this. Making sure the accounting documentation is correct, making sure premium payment terms are met in order to ensure coverage continue without any disruption. And then I think the second most important job for us is the service job. Once the contract is established, once we have done what we need to the client, including manuals, including claims procedures, or maybe summary term on the coverages. I'm talking about people talk about major clients being complex and need these things, but every client needs these things, to be honest. And at all levels, whether it be a general business, corporate business, and or EB business, employee benefit business. Medical business more complex because it actually looks after the individuals themselves, your most precious capital, which is the human capital. And this needs to be addressed and managed carefully. So the service comes immediately into place as soon as the contracts are complete, the documentation is complete, and you need to look after the client continuously. That's our job. Not to sell the product and sit back. There will be amendments to the coverages, there will be amendments to the values, and we need to engage with the client regularly on this. And in addition, of course, which is the most important thing, all of what we do as an insurance industry, now talking on behalf of both insurance companies and underwriting and broking, is we make promises to our clients that we will pay in case there is a claim which is covered on this policy. So we make a promise, we will pay, and we need to deliver on these promises. So the broker job is very important in assisting the client, not only recovering the claim, but actually putting forward the claim in the manner supposed to be put forward. A lot of clients, and unfortunately in our part of the world, don't know how to make a claim. It's our job to educate them how to put the claim together and how to make a claim. And there have been incidences where we had disputes in claims because of lack of understanding of the clients of putting forward an admissible claim, I will say it. That's where there are advisors on claims these days, just to handle claims for clients. Our job goes beyond this year of placement. I talked about 1 year. It goes looking at the client and looking at their vision in the future, looking at their strategy in the future, aligning ourselves with their strategy, aligning ourselves with their risk register, what the risks they look at which threaten their existence as clients. And that's how we see our role, adding value rather than being transactional, just pure transaction. There are a lot of off-the-shelf products. We will talk later on with intriguing questions from Joe about the technology, and most of the technology talks about tailored products rather than actually bespoke products. The more difficult job is to do the bespoke products rather than the traditional householders policies, personal accident policies, personalized policies. They are available, they are off the shelf in the world these days, and hardly people use actually brokers or retail brokers in this because they can access it direct. It's cheaper to access it direct to. This is where we have to step up, and I know that we will engage in this at a later stage. So I hope this gives a brief on how do we see ourselves, how we need to add value. Our industry remain personal, irrespective of the IA we talk about in the world. Everybody talking about artificial intelligence and how we're going to move the business to artificial intelligence, but it will always remain personal. I was engaged in London in the early 90s when everybody talking about the electronic platform. I was actually part of the committee which was negotiating with Lloyd's doing the electronic platform. I was at Minute at the time, and we achieved nothing. We still transact business the same way we transacted in the past, maybe in a more automated way, but at the personal level, when it comes to complex risks, IA will not actually solve our problem. I believe so, and if it is still way ahead for us in this part of the world. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, we note from your word that you pointed out that pricing is an important thing. However, servicing is what counts ultimately, because servicing is about honoring claims, and this is when the client feels the service and feels there's something tangible in the product that is being sold. However, there is a correlation that is established between the pricing and the security. And when we say security, it's about a guarantee that the claim will be honored on time and the claim will not be rejected and not be resisted. How do you see this correlation, and how open are the clients to accept to pay in today's market and today's difficult economic conditions, to accept a higher price for a higher security?
I think I'll answer it in a very simple way, actually. Yes, the price actually is correlated not to the payment, it's to the actually honoring the contract, I would say, rather than the payment of the claim, is honoring their obligations, people, how they honor their obligations. We have companies, I mean, and Best were on the podium a few minutes ago talking about security of companies. We have to differentiate between companies who have a strong balance sheet and they have a capability of cash to pay immediately in claims, especially with large claims. You have initial payments, you have interim payments, you have the final payments on claims, because organizations If they have a major loss, they need cash to continue their operations. In the region currently, we have, I think, three large claims in our part of the world, the largest being in Abu Dhabi, which is a $1.7 billion claim in the oil and gas industry. And this is where the test of the security. So yes, if you want to drive a Hyundai, it is a Hyundai. If you drive a Mercedes, it is a Mercedes, and you pay a big difference between the Hyundai and the Mercedes. I'm not undermining the Hyundai if anybody involved in Hyundai or anything. All I'm talking about is the quality of the security is different when you go to the AAA S&P or AA S&P. And there are few of them in the world remained, actually. And if you go to, B- or B, you're looking at the balance sheet here, and they're not only commitment to pay and honor their contracts, is actually how fast they can make the cash available to meet their contractual obligation. So it is correlated in a sense, from an honoring point of view, the contract is a contract, whether it is with AA rated security or with B- security. The difference is the insurance industry always been meticulous in looking at the terms. Unfortunately, I'm sure I have a lot of my colleagues in the claims here. I was educated in the sense that as a claims man, you look at the areas where you can cover the loss rather than find areas where the loss is not covered. And this is all about culture and attitude. Our job is to find areas where we can cover that loss rather than look at exclusions and warranties and subjectives in the contract to make sure that the claim is not payable. I'm not suggesting that we should pay claims which are not being payable, but we cannot be difficult to the client. We should always give the benefit of the doubt to the clients. That's the way I see it. Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Al. I think we come to the first question about how can the broker enhance the development of the market. The question is insurance penetration. We have heard in the first session that insurance penetration remains extremely low as 0.7% of GDP. And premium per capita is too modest at something roughly $20 per person. This underlines very clearly and translates into a huge potential for growth in the industry. However, in order to tackle this growth and this potential, we need to make sure that the infrastructure is ready. And this is the responsibility of all the operators in the market, whether insurers, reinsurers, brokers, other agents, other distribution channels. We have seen how the FRA have already taken interesting initiatives by encouraging online and mobile apps distribution, by encouraging bank assurance, by providing for the legislation. We have seen as well the Association of Brokers taking a good move in preparing a draft for code of conduct for resolution of disputes. However, there is still a lot to be done. The question is addressed to Habib. How can we enhance the role? How can broker enhance and develop the market?
Thanks, Joe. Joe mentioned that I am engineer. So as you know, engineers, they like figures, they like numbers. So I start my answer with giving certain or highlighting certain figures. Let's take the Egyptian market. The total premium of the market is around 24 billion Egyptian pound. The penetration rate is below 1%. Insurance density is $22, and the Egyptian population, according to 2017, is 93 million. So in 2018, certainly it is more than this. So this is the main figures of the market. It gives certainty that the market or the potential of growth of the market is really huge. So by increasing the penetration rate by 0.2%, 0.3%, we'll see that the market will grow a lot. Before answering my question, Joe question about how the broker can develop the insurance in the market, I would like to ask you to excuse my franchise. and I would like to be very objective. So if we take the Egyptian market with a premium volume of 24 billion Egyptian pound and the number of brokers, whether corporate or individual, it's around 8,700. So this means that even if we consider 100% of the premium of the market is placed via broker, the average income of a broker in the market is less than 45,000 US dollars. I don't think it is sustainable. I don't know if the number of brokers. I don't know if all of them they are operational or not. So this is another question. But frankly speaking, the financial regulatory authority, they did a lot since 1981 by amendment of the current law, but still the market still to be regulated and reinforced. So by reinforcing the market, we can think about the capital, about the professional indemnity of the broker. We can think about the staff, the expertise, the technicality, even the IT systems. I'm sure that some of the brokers operating in the market, they don't have an IT system. So how they can face the progress of technology if they don't really, try to be proactive and prepare themselves to service better the market. Certainly, if we want to talk about the possibility of growth, there are a lot of areas or segments where the broker can be of added value. But before talk about developing the market, at the first, the broker is advisor to the client, certainly. First role of the broker is to assess the risk and to give option of cover, and then he should start to find the best cover at the best deal, certainly to service his client. And after that, he should also do risk management and claims management after that. There is a after-sales service, so he should continue to be next to his client and to assist him in solving problems or amendment that can happen during the policy period and stuff like this. For the areas where we can develop the market, first the personal lines like motor, health, life, and personal accident. This is an area where really we can develop very quickly the market. Second area, it is micro insurance. You have around 40% of the Egyptian population who is below the poverty ceiling. Other area of development, we can talk about the financial risk, we can talk about the agriculture insurance, we can talk about cyber risk, micro insurance, all of this. There are areas of development that broker can really help and push the market. There are other line of business like sport activities. I think in market like Egypt, we can find a product for with the insurance company, certainly for retirement and pension. Also, for professionals, PI like doctors, medical malpractice, or PI for engineers and lawyers. So the potential of development in the Egyptian market is really huge. It needs to increase the awareness of the certainly the population with maybe help and of the federal the financial authority or the government, the new regulation and regulation. But certainly the market is ready for development and
Thank you, Habib. I hear that you're betting on plenty of new products, plenty of new lines, and most importantly on the advice the broker has to provide and release, whether it's on the risk management or on the risk appetite or on the risk transfer. I mean, and all this would imply a minimum level of professional competence, I would say, that needs to be nurtured when it comes to the broking industry. And this is where a lot of effort, I think, needs to be done. Professional competence is, above all, the platform to build the broker of tomorrow. The other thing we know culturally, there is something we all understand, there is a negative perception about the broker. I mean, there is a word in Arabic we tend to say samsar. And you will agree that this negative perception is there culturally. I mean, my question is, how can we go around this and how can we counter this negative perception as far as brokers are concerned? Anyone would like to take this question? Please.
I think this, yeah, thank you, Habib. Hello, everybody. I think this also correlates with your question regarding enhancing the climate of trust with clients. So I think it will be starting with putting together what is the broker's role in a different words than what my colleagues have put it. It's clearly sales, so which relates to people, product, after sale, which is again people, transparency and innovation. So when we say sales and people, our people are the key thing that we deal with our clients. So firstly, for them to trust us, we need to have qualified staff, so we need to spend a lot of time on our trainings, on our development, so that we have qualified staff that our clients can trust. On our product, again, the industry, not only brokers, but also the whole industry should be doing more on the R&D, product development, awareness for the clients on the insurance industry. On the after sale, which is mainly the claims handling and documentation, it again relates to our people and how much time we spend on training them, on qualifying them, so that they can capture the trust of our clients. Transparency, which will also enhance the trust of our clients, comes to compliance, the enhancement of the terms of business agreements, where clients will know exactly what is the role of the broker, what is their obligation towards the broker as well, and this will make the relationship clear and will create an atmosphere of trust. Innovation, which links into product and it also links into insurtech or the technology. We listened in the morning talking about how insurance technology could be a threat to the role of the broker, but I think technology complements our role if we use it. Technology alone will not do our job. It's still a people's business. So I think the broker and the technology will complement each other, and we need to cooperate with the tech companies to come up with innovative solutions for our clients.
Thank you, Amr. We come now to the question number 2. As you know, the basic role of the broker is a supply role. The supply role of insurance coverage is often driven by a traditional exercise of matching the products as offered by the market, by the insurers, and the needs and requirements of the clients. The human intervention behind this role is being increasingly replaced, at least in Europe, we see it more common, as in a common pattern, is being replaced by automated tools, online platforms, aggregators, robot advisors, etc. This puts a question on what would be there to differentiate the brokers. We know that at the heart of the differentiation would be the relation with the customers that needs to be nurtured constantly, and the creation of value. Both aspects are very important in today's market, as clients are becoming more demanding and do expect quality service. My question, how do brokers enhance the climate of trust? How can they enhance this climate of trust with clients? How can they move towards needs-based selling rather than any product that is on the shelf? Because it's not any sale that has to be done. It's a sale that correlates with the needs and the requirement and the risk appetite of the client and the risk exposure. And how can they create constantly effective value to the customers?
Well, again, Joe, thank you. This relates again to what we mentioned now. It's about qualified people. If we have qualified staff on the sales side, they will be closer to their clients and understand their needs better and service them. On the insurtech side, that it's eating into the industry, but again, my view on that is that tech alone will not take over the industry. They still need the expertise of our staff. They still need our input, and it will still remain a people's business. So we need to keep close to our clients and keep our staff always alert, ready, qualified to be able to address those needs of the clients. The climate of trust again goes back to understanding the role of the broker. What are the obligations of the broker? What are the obligations of the clients? And that only comes by having the right terms of business agreements in place from the start and creating a compliant environment that everybody can trust. Thank you. Omar.
So really to touch on a lot of the subjects that we were discussing today around the role of the insurance broker, around maybe technology, we have to maybe take a step back really to look at what unifies us from a servicing perspective. Here in Egypt, the concept of a corporate insurance broker is relatively new. You know, we saw a presentation earlier today about the history of the Egyptian insurance market, which has a really, really long history, and it's something I think all of us should be very proud of. However, from a corporate insurance broking perspective, it's a relatively new development of our market. So the law for the corporate insurance brokers, as all of you very well know, was passed in 2008, and many of the corporate insurance brokers were established afterwards. When I look at the Egyptian insurance market, I've spent 4 years here, and I've been working in and out of Egypt over the past 12 years. You know, I've seen a lot of development. I've seen a lot of things that I think are pretty good from a intermediary perspective. However, I really believe that we need, as retail brokers in Egypt, to take a step back and look at and get the basics right. What do I mean from basics? First of all, from a basic perspective, is looking at what unifies us from a principle perspective, and having a common set of unified principles as insurance brokers. I had prepared a small presentation earlier, but I'll just speak off the top of my head right now to sort of touch on these points. First of all, one of the key things, there's 6 principles I think we all as retail brokers in Egypt should look at. Number 1, identifying client objectives. Number 2, promoting the client's understanding of coverage, which touched on Wael's earlier comments around the role of the broker. Number 3, pursue client objectives when we engage with insurers. We always have to remember the client is at the center of everything as brokers. Number 4, handle clients' placements through completion. So it goes back to Wael's point around pre-placement and placement phases of the broker sort of service level. Number 5, continue client services after the completion of the placement. And last but not least, to manage all the client's information in an appropriate manner. So really what I think from an Egyptian speaking here on the in the conference today is that we as brokers, we represent clients. We also need to be fair with insurance companies. Our role as brokers is to understand the client's business, number 1. You have to understand the client's business. If you don't understand the client's business, you're not going to be able to purchase the right insurance. And we will not be giving the right advice to the client. So understanding client business, identifying what the risks are, is very, very important. It's crucial to what we do. Once we understand the client's business and understand what the risks are, like my colleagues here today were talking about, is to put together the proper insurance placement. Putting together the proper insurance placement, we have to remember our customers don't understand insurance, a lot of them. A lot of the retail direct insureds here in Egypt, they don't understand insurance, and it's the broker's role to make them understand, to explain to them the coverages, to explain to them the exclusions, to explain to them the subjectivities. It's our role to do this. At the end of the day, the insurance is a promise to pay, and we need to make sure that the clients understand what the obligations of the insurance company is to them. Also, I think it's all about transparency. Transparency in our dealings with our clients, for them to understand, again, the coverage. Transparency in our dealings with the insurance companies. We're supposed to be the channel of distribution for insurance companies. The information they get has to be correct. The information that they underwrite the risk on has to be right and transparent. We need, as brokers in Egypt, to do this. We need to be able to get the right information, go through the information with the client before putting together an underwriting submission. When we put a proper underwriting submission, and that could consist of just client information or doing risk analysis, getting risk engineers involved, loss prevention consultants involved, it will enhance the underwriting capabilities here in the country. So I don't see my role as a broker just as clients, but also I see it as helping ease the business for insurance companies. We need to be able to make your underwriting decisions easier, more transparent, and in an event of the claim, make sure that's easy as well for the client and for you. So transparency is key, especially when a claim happens. Making sure that the broker is in the middle between the loss adjusters, between the insurance companies and the clients, and making sure that everybody is on board when claims happen, because at the end of the day, it's the most important thing. So I really briefly discussed sort of some of these principles, but what I believe in is if we have transparency, if we have sort of a risk-based discussion with our clients, and better underwriting submissions for underwriters, it's going to increase current insurance product sales. It's going to help us, when we understand the client's risk better, develop new insurance products. We heard this morning that cyber is something that's on the agenda here in Egypt, which is an emerging risk. And also, it will help underwriters make better underwriting decisions when the broker is transparent and clear with all the stakeholders. Thank you.
I think to wrap it up, Omar was mentioning rightly that there will be no trust, no climate of trust without a full transparency. And he also emphasized that in order to deliver the right product, we need to make sure that we understand the client business. And this is about professional competence. This is about professional competence. So in 2 words, in order to grow the business, we need to grow the people. And we need to invest into the human resources we have. If no one else has a question, we'll go, please.
First off, a big thank you to all my fellow brokers and colleagues for tackling a very important subject. Each of you represent what I would say world-class intermediaries, and therefore you have, in many instances, gained an international standard of intermediation. And I'm sure you will agree with me that in that respect, not all of our fellow brokers are aspiring to reach similar standards. There are still operations in various parts of the world, in this region, where a broker is perceived as one man and possibly one man and his dog, and simply just, you know, reliant entirely on personal relationships and possibly certain, I would say, maybe even improper inducements. So what do you think should be done in order to try and elevate the standard across the region in order to meet those standards that you have achieved?
Joe,
Why? Please. Please.
Yeah, Joe pointed at me, so I will try to answer you, George. I think the good example, I was in Ministers of Transportation conference in Jordan, I remember 3 years ago, and it was the transportation, to do with transportation. And I was asked to present the insurance industry correlating with the marine industry at the time. And the first question, the Middle East ministers were present in that meeting, and actually the Egyptian transport minister was there too. And the first question from the media came to the ministers before we started that conference is, how come Dubai can clear a container in 6 hours from their port? And I'm going, this is not, I'm quoting here, so it's not me, I'm quoting, guys, so nobody please say anything. And Jordan, it takes them 2 days to clear a container to 3 days, and in Egypt 5 to 6 days to clear a container from the port. And it was an embarrassing question to everyone. I was sitting actually in the audience at the time. And nobody answered the question other than the UAE minister stood up and said, we've been working on this for almost 15, 20 years, building the infrastructure in order to arrive to this, building the infrastructures with KPIs on us from our government. So that's his question, preparing for this. Are we preparing in other territories? And I'm going to go to broking exactly the same way. There's no harm us leaning on experience of foreign entities or experience from all over the world. Dubai excelled in broking. I think in UAE is the most advanced broking sort of industry in the region. I hope my colleagues agree with me. Followed by certain other territories in the Gulf region because they imported experience. We still import experience. We, as I'm sure my colleagues in Ayon, Marsh, Shadidri, everyone, we import experience. We need the transfer of knowledge. Knowledge is not going to be acquired only by reading or by, I did my ACI, my FCII, my master's in insurance and risk management. That's not enough. I needed to learn. So I was on the ground. George, you worked in London. All of us operated in international markets. We knew how to elevate, how to match these standards there. But we still need, in every territory in the Middle East, to transfer knowledge. The transfer of knowledge is not going to happen without having the experienced people from other territories in order to actually raise these standards for us. And I mentioned about the transport industry, that's exactly the same like us now in the insurance industry. Dubai excelled. You go to Dubai market and you will see the experience which is imported from all over the world, whether it's from the States, whether from the UK, whether it's from Singapore, from Australia. And that's good. It's not bad, by the way. It's actually good because the generation which is learning from them are the future leaders of our business in the region. And unfortunately, in some parts of the world, I'm not talking about nationalism here. Nationalism is actually to educate our people to make sure that they can compete in the future rather than now. That's nationalism for me. Nationalism is not only relying on making sure that my own country people only work in this industry. That's not going to make them better in the future. To make them better, they need to mix and they need to interact with other experienced people from all over the world who have experiences. There's no harm us importing experience. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can copy and improve. The Japanese reached where they are now, and I hope there are Japanese colleagues here. They didn't invent, they copied and improved. The Chinese, they're still copying and improving. But they are world powers. I'm not suggesting the insurance industry. We are still very small in the scheme of things worldwide, and you all know that. Let's get the facts right for us, guys. We all know that. Our market, I don't know how much actually the actual figures in the Middle East currently, let's say $50 billion. In the whole Middle East, there are one country in Europe. So we still a lot of work for us to do. We're talking about penetration rate. You mentioned 0.7%, the penetration rate in Egypt. And it's correct. If you just imagine you increase it by 0.3 notches, that will go up 30% immediately. There's a lot of room for us in the whole Middle East to grow. We are the lowest, probably like Africa and Latin America, and us in the Middle East and Africa, we are the lowest in the world in insurance penetration. Are we doing our job 100% right? We all should acknowledge, no, we are not doing 100%, because also our organizations, and I'm not shy to say it, all of us looking for some margins at the end. We don't keep reinvesting in the people which Amr and my colleague Umar talked about, how much professionalism we need in the market. But without the transfer of knowledge, or without bringing people to help us too, without exception, all of us in the region, I don't know how we're going to get to that level. We need this experience. And I encourage my colleagues to interact. I mean, Dubai, people speak, it's a foreign company market. No, it's not a foreign company market, because these foreign companies are bringing actually the experience in the local market. And you will see how the development of the young generation going up to be the future leaders, because they are getting that knowledge from these experienced people who came from London or from the States or from Australia or from Singapore. These are the advanced markets in our part of the world, and this is, I'm not shy to say it. I learned my practice in broking in London. I didn't learn it in the Middle East. I learned underwriting, and my first 20 years is insurance, underwriting and management. But then I went to London. I wanted to learn new skills, and I had to learn it in London, and I'm pleased I did that actually. And I till now rely on my colleagues. You have to be surrounded by good people in order to succeed. And George, you mentioned right that we have the perception of the broker because of the one man carrying a bag and walking to a client and just selling the policy. And when the claim occurs, you didn't tell me this is not covered. It's happening all over the world. In our part, I'm talking not all over the Middle East. It happened in Dubai till now, by the way, and where clients are sold products which they don't need actually. But when the claim occurs, then they realize that they didn't buy the right product. That's where our reputation is not being good actually. But if you go to corporate, again, risks, which Omar touched on, we have a lot of very advanced organizations in the Middle East who took the standards, the international standards, looking at the enterprise risk management in its best possible way. So it is in the board, it is an issue on the board of directors of these companies. Insurance becomes part of this process, and they actually employ risk management teams, and they employ insurance people within their organization. And we have plenty of them in the Middle East now, whether it's in UAE or in Saudi Arabia or in Qatar or in Kuwait or in Bahrain. I don't know about Egypt. I'm sure there will be organizations who have the risk management department, which plays an important role in the board of directors' decision-making and strategizing on the company. But this is evolving. We are evolving. We don't, the question about technology, Joe, you asked, we haven't answered that question, how we can match what's happening in the world. We are far behind, actually, to start talking about artificial intelligence. We need to get, again, I will quote Omar, as said, the basics right for us. So we crawl, we walk, we run. I'm not sure whether we are walking till now. We're still crawling in our part of the world, in our industry. This is not being critical of all of us. We have great people in this part of the world. I'm serious, great people. I've seen it everywhere, and you all agree with me on this. Great people. But also we need the systems to support these great people too. So it is all together. You cannot isolate one function from another function. It's actually the functions work together. You get the insurance professionals who are the best in the world, qualified. We have ACIIs, FCIIs, master's degree in our part of the world. But if you don't have the IT people who support them on the systems they need in order to produce the output they need out of that system, it doesn't work. And we all know that in the management. You all, my colleagues, the CEOs here and who run businesses, when you go to ask your colleagues, give me any management information you need in order to make a decision, you get it crumbled. You don't get the right output. Even at with our international practices, we're still struggling to get to that level. We keep investing and we keep investing and reinvesting. So it's a long journey for us, but we all have the good intentions in this journey in the Middle East. I meet my colleagues all over the part where everybody have good intentions to create future leaders. One of my colleagues asked me today for an interview on the magazines, so I told her, we are the old generation. You go and focus on the young generation now, bring them up with you guys, rather than the old generation, which I mean it. Because the young generation are more literate in IT and technology than us, who started the technology when we were in our mid-30s or late 30s. Our children knows better than us in their iPhones. I go back to my daughter. She's a young, very young lady, and when I need an application, she can do it better than me. We need to give credit to these people too, and actually help them grow with us. That's how we should focus in order to get to the level where we need to get to. So I hope, guys, don't take my words as criticism to us. We done a great job, all of us as leaders here. I know all of you. We worked so hard, but we worked so hard within the limitations we have. We didn't have everything available to us. We need to create that environment and make available to our future leaders the things were not available to us. That's our job to do, that we invest in this. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Wael. Any other question? Please.
Hamad Mabrouk, Will Stars Watson. I do have a question, and maybe it's an open-ended question, but utilizing the panel who have a great experience in the broking in the Middle East, and most of them are now in the Egypt field. And let's deassociate a little bit Egypt from the rest of the Emirates and the Gulf. And let's do another deassociation between the insurance brokerage and the reinsurance brokerage. And my specific question would go on what is the ideas, how to develop the direct brokerage business in Egypt if we deassociate the reinsurance. How can we have a hand-in-hand between competitors in order to elevate the market? We all agree that human resources is a very important element, but what else? I believe that there is lots of idea that we should be able to bring to the table in order to develop this market from a direct perspective, because what is really missing is the direct perspective rather than the reinsurance perspective, which is professionals to professionals. Here we are talking professionals to, I wouldn't say the word ignorant, but I would say less professionals than in other countries of the world. So any comments, any suggestion from the panel or from the ground? I mean, we are all brokers around the table, or at least most of the people around here.
Omar, would you like to take this?
Thank you. And also it will be, I think it's Yelena Butarova, MetLife, it will be also interesting to get the feedback from your partners, insurance companies, because we are working together and not only to increase the penetration, to get a sound and healthy business, which is extremely important for all of us. And I think the role of brokers is very important for the market and for insurance companies. In Egypt, still a big portion of the business is coming from direct channel. But the broker importance is growing. Specifically, for example, I'm talking about the corporate segment, like EB in Egypt. And I think the role of the brokers is extremely important to be a best possible communicator between the client and insurer, to understand better, as you mentioned, what is the real need, and also to deliver this message in correct way to the provider, to the insurance company, and back what is possible and what is a dream, and for what cost is finally acceptable. And one more thing, I think it's extremely important, because you mentioned this also in your speeches. What is the core competence, or what IT development, or artificial intelligence, or analytics, or data, or digital, the customer is expecting from the broker? I think the most important for your role as a broker is to be, how to say, to be the most possible flexible, the flexible part of the connection. Customer sometimes is very hard a tough, and they have their systems, they have their HR systems, they have their requirements. HR companies have their own systems as well. HR companies, so insurance companies have also their requirements and their systems where they maybe have for the last 20, 30 years or just invested. What is extremely important that the broker can help to connect, can help to understand better and to connect in the final implementation of the business. And in this, having that, said that, the price will be really important, yes, but it will help to differentiate. So the flexibility of the broker to help to connect and communication skills, working like sometimes like a translator from the customer words, language to the insurance language is extremely important. And this, what we are very, so in case we are working with such a trust policy partners like we see here here on the stage, we are very thankful for their efforts to grow the business and to attract customers for us. Thank you very much.
Hamid, very good question. I think it's really up to people like us here in Egypt. There are market leaders who come from multinational companies who have a set corporate standard to really lead by example. If we don't lead by example, no one else will do anything, right? We need to set the bar. We need to set the standard. We need to be the ones having what I was mentioning before, the risk-based conversations with clients, really talking to clients, explaining to clients what coverage they are buying, what are they buying, and selling all the insurance to them that they actually need, right? I think it's all about trying to understand, again, how the business operates, how your client's business operates, what risks do they face, and then translating it to insurance, and then explaining to the insured what they're actually buying. It's very important. And it's not only about price. It's about coverage. It's a combination of both, coverage and price. And I'm telling you, Hamid, if people like you and me are having these kind of conversations with clients, it will proliferate everywhere, I believe, hopefully. That people will see successful companies, successful brokers doing the right things in this marketplace, others will follow. And it's up to people like you and me to do that, to be completely honest.
Do you want me to answer Hamid? Hamid, you had a specific question. Do you mind if I answer Hamid on this? Yeah? You spoke about how you can actually improve the direct broking in Egypt. I think we need to go back to the traditional way. There are two segments of your audience you are selling to. The segment who are very involved in the social media, and you need to target them by young people like this generation who understand them, but also the segment where, like the old days, we knocked on doors to sell policies, where you have really adequate and trained sales force knocking on doors. And that remains the case in all our Middle East, by the way. Social media have taken part of it, but it's not yet that level. But the young generation growing up, they're actually very, very familiar with the technology in the world, and we need to start recruiting these young people in order to interact with them, and they are the future leaders. But traditional sales people, they will remain important for the time being, and we need to train them. That's the difference. Train them, not bring them and send them to the market without having the knowledge of what they are selling and how they interact with their clients. And that's the only way we can grow the direct business for the time being. I'm talking about particularly Egypt at this stage. We've been here for 11 months, I think, or 10 months for the time being, and we're seeing this already. Okay, we are all after corporate business, and the corporate business doesn't need all these efforts, but we need to move forward to another level. Yeah, I agree with you, Hamid. I hope. Yeah?
Please.
Thank you, Joe. First of all, I don't know how did we put this panel together. It's really a fantastic one. I think we need to stay for another 2 hours. I just wanted to take from Wael's words. He said that we have some limitation, and I think it's not a limitation, it's about implementation. because you guys have, three of you at least have international exposure, big one, and this international exposure, you implement this wherever you can do in the right way. But unfortunately, when you come to markets like emerging markets or the Middle East, or take Egypt for example, I sometimes feel that you need, the way that you implement is that you go the same way like the others. You're not trying to implement whatever you implement in your mother countries, like in the US or in the UK. I might be wrong, but I think this is the message. If we can implement the same, whatever the result is, this is, I think, can solve the whole thing. So this is a challenge for Wael, for Umar.
No, I'm going to answer you. If you want to implement whatever it is, we close our business tomorrow. We have made a lot of investment here, and we need to make sure that we have some returns on that investment. I'm not suggesting that we don't implement what is the best practice. We try to implement best practice, but sometimes best practice don't work with clients too, just for you to know. I mean, the simple thing, like, let's start, we're talking about compliance. Amr touched a lot about compliance. KYCs. I don't know how you manage your KYCs. That's a requirement by every regulatory authority in the world now, that you actually know your client. Not forget about knowing the client from an insurance perspective, but knowing the client from a compliance perspective. We struggle to get KYCs. And that's at corporate level, so let alone the personal level. So, yes, I agree, you need to raise the standards. You can raise the standard, but to a certain level in order to keep the business going, because actually you will prohibit yourself from doing business in certain territories if you want to employ the same standards which you employed in the US or in the UK or in Singapore or other parts of the world. I'm serious. You do that. I mean, just now in UAE, and I hope my colleagues who work in the UAE, there is to level where, because of the regulatory authorities, they actually insist on these things, that you have proper KYCs, you have proper standards on there. Amr talked about SLA. I will tell you that SLA is the service level agreements. We have to send, as our part of our best practice, is to send a service level agreement to every client we have, whether it's an individual, corporate, whatever it is. Some clients will tell us, why are you sending us this? So there are difficulties. It will take us time. I'm not suggesting any of us, whether it's my colleagues, Amr and Umar, it's better to say it this way, and Habib, we try hard. But there are obstacles for us too. We are partners with you, the insurance industry, and we need your help too in order to deliver. So we are all together working in order to deliver one message. It's about growing the awareness. I think Hamid's question was, how do we grow the awareness in order to get more involved as brokers to start with in the market, but also engage with the clients who don't buy insurance, because there's still majority of our people don't buy insurance. We know that. In Dubai, even till now, we have, you all hear about the fires in buildings. 75% of the occupants of these buildings don't have insurance. And that's one of the most advanced markets in the Middle East. So it's all about engaging and continuous. It will take us time. Rome was not built in one day, and we have to take the time, man. That's it. So thank you for the question, but we cannot close the business.
I think I would add one thing. Sorry, Joe. Thank you, Al. I think the other thing, patience is important. Patience. And the other thing as well, you mentioned the regulatory, and I've read something in Habib's presentation yesterday that there is about 18,000 individual brokers licenses in Egypt, and 8,000 are active. I think the regulators can help in creating bigger organizations by forcing them, instead of the individual brokers, to start creating a slightly bigger local organizations which could be more patient to implement the right standards.
Thank you. I think we need to move a little bit faster, but my only conclusion about that is that we are getting there. Regulators are helping, and we should empower the new generation. These are happening. We should be patient again. I mean, the third question is about personal lines. Personal lines and small commercial are being regarded increasingly as commodity lines, and the distribution is shifting, in Europe at least, from brokers to other channels, whether this is digital, whether this is direct, whether this is bank-led, etc. The broker market share for standard product is expected to decline, as customers will be looking for more convenience in selecting the carrier, in selecting the product. They would like as well to have more control on the pricing. This is the new generation. My question is, are the broker called to reposition themselves so to handle only complex cases with high premiums, which require advice, which require risk management. Is innovation and cooperation with InsurTech the way to keep a foothold into this lucrative segment of the book that is shifting? What would be done to offset the decline? Develop awareness, we just mentioned it. To create a bigger cake, that's the only way to create a bigger cake, so brokers can continue holding a share of that. Go for new niche, and if we go for new niche, what are these niches? Omar? Personal lines.
Yeah. So
standardized product.
So from a personal lines perspective, from a, you know, you look at the insurance industry in general, and you look at the Middle East and Egypt. I think we have a long way to go when it comes to personal line products. You know, Wael said an interesting statistic that 75% of building occupants in Dubai don't have insurance. That's outstanding. So I would imagine in Egypt it's a lot lower. I think it's all about really the two things. So it's about explaining to customers what value the insurance will add to protect their financial future. And us as salespeople, I guess part of it is sales, is explaining the coverage and having the insured see the value of those sort of niche or sort of affinity line products. I think that's important. So creating the awareness around that. And I think another thing is the ease of the transaction. And we talked briefly today about technology, and I think technology around affinity lines is going to play a greater role, not only outside of the Middle East, but in the Middle East. So your motor insurance, your homeowner's insurance, sort of your personal liability insurance, getting that kind of business more automated, I think will help distribute those products easily. So it's a bit of customer awareness and ease of distribution of products will, I believe, increase that sort of penetration in that product line.
Thank you, Omar. Would you like Habib to add something about this? Anyone from the audience? I still believe that the new generation are very keen on this online platform. So it is the ability of the broker to invest with InsurTech, with technology, that is going to make the difference for the broker if we want to keep a foothold into the personal lines. This is my view. I mean, I always look at my own son at home, whom I got him an offer from my own company regarding his motor insurance, and he said, I can get cheaper online. So this is the new generation. They would like to go. They are price driven. They know how to use these tools, and things can accelerate when it comes to this sort of shifting into distribution, unless we realize that there is something to do from our end. We come to the fourth question. This is about technology pushing the frontiers of insurability. What do I mean by that? You know, Internet of Things will move insurance from the occasional risk inspection and eventual loss adjusting and indemnification to online monitoring, thanks to these devices, whether fitted in the car, whether fitted in the home, online monitoring, online prevention, and online protection. So my question is, in this connected world, we will see more types of insurance coming up, which were not insured before. So we'll be pushing the frontiers of insurability. How can the brokers get more equipped and do enough to accompany this move?
Yeah, well, thank you, Amjad, again, Joe. I think it's these technologies will help us look at gathering more data and analysis. One of the examples would be, you mentioned the gadgets in the cars. Maybe this will allow the industry in the future to start looking at insuring motor pay-as-you-go rather than paying annual premium. But where the broker would play the role is analysis and big data, basically. So it will take time, investment, and partnering up with tech companies to do that. Habib.
I don't think that the technology will substitute to the human intervention, especially in certain complex risk and risk where they really require to be face-to-face and to discuss terms and conditions. And when it comes to complex risk, there's no place for the technology, I'm sure. But certainly for day-to-day or commodities like motor, maybe health, it could be easier in the future, of course. Because I think in our market we are far away from this. We have to prepare ourselves.
I think I'd like to add something around. I think we're right. There's a lot to do when it comes to the Internet of Things, and from an insurance perspective, I think it's quite interesting. I saw actually a presentation a couple of weeks ago about workman's comp in the United States, and there's actually in the technology now that insurance companies are using around actually putting a belt on and measuring the movements of factory workers. And you can actually now real-time, some insurers now are actually can real-time give you workers' compensation premiums based on how heavy people are lifting things, how much movement that they're doing. So, to your point, the broker's role is to analyze that information and to drive better coverage and better deals for the clients based on analytics. And I truly believe it's going to supplement the human part, right? Because insurance is a people business. But it's going to make us, I think, more analytical, more precise when we give insurance advice to our clients. And it's really fascinating, I think, that where the world is going.
I agree. It's more about predictive analytics. And I think this is something we have to live with. It's going to happen. Telematics are coming into our markets as well, more rapidly than we think. The other thing, if tomorrow this auto-driven cars happen, so the way we conduct insurance for all this is going to change. So we need to adapt. We need to adapt, whether insurers or brokers have to follow these moves. We come to the end and the last question. In front of the transformation in industry landscape and the change in customer expectation, there is a need to encourage a mind shift aimed at reinventing operating model and push brokers to be more of problem solvers with optimal transactional skills, because this is going to make the difference. Minor tweaks will not make it in the models. The question is, would this climate, in your opinion, encourage some sort of consolidation among the corporate brokers? And the second question, is the number, this is a question that you have been asking, Habib, is the number of individual intermediary population estimated at 18,000 against 8,000 active a sustainable number when correlated with premium volume?
The first question,
please. Consolidation because of the mind shift and the reinventing of models.
We already saw the consolidation 2 weeks ago.
A big one.
There is a new one today.
So that's the quick answer to the first question.
Stay in Egypt now. You have to land back.
I think it's not only in the insurance broking industry. I think for the last year we've been seeing a lot of mergers, acquisitions taking place all around the world. And that's have made the shift in the industry itself from the soft cycle. I think, I hope people realize that we are moving to another cycle. Maybe still at the bottom of that cycle rising, but there is a shift in the cycle currently. And that's not because of the lack of capacity, because of actually the pressure from the investors in our business to get the returns. We've seen at least, I think, 8 or 10 mergers, acquisitions between the carriers. The largest ever takeover of an insurance broker happened 3 weeks ago with our colleagues in March taking over JLT. And I think that trend will continue. It's not going to stop here. And that will change, it will shift actually the thinking in the market. The people are looking at more effective and efficient ways in order to deliver to the clients what they are supposed to be delivering. I want to focus on Egypt actually. Your second part of the question, when you mentioned 18,000, I'm actually surprised we have 18,000 licenses in Egypt and 8,000 active at this time. From this all personally, not the corporate.
Yeah, retail individual.
And the retail individual. And I'm not sure how much training is provided by whom. I mean, I'm sure there is the broking association, but are the insurance companies involved with these sales people in the market that they provide training to them? Will this be sustainable long time? No, it cannot be sustainable long time because it has the compliance environment is seeping in our countries gradually. It will happen in Egypt very soon, where compliance will have greater importance than ever before, and individuals will not be able to. The cost for them to comply will be so high that they cannot survive even. So the greater the volume for them, it doesn't mean that they are in a good shape now. I think long term there will be consolidation, not only, I'm going to say it, not only in the broking industry or the individual retailer, but also in the insurance companies market in our part of the world. It has to happen. It didn't happen yet. There were few mergers in the last 4 or 5 years, but few of them only. We have still a fragmented industry, both at regional insurance companies or local insurance companies and regional or local insurance brokers too. We are still fragmented industry. This will be consolidated, whether we like it or not, because the economics will dictate this to us. The economics will dictate it. It's not us who will dictate it. The economics will dictate that we need to consolidate more than ever. So I hope this answered the question in general terms. I don't think I can go into the Egyptian market more details. There are more experienced people than me here in the Egyptian market, but I see it as a must for all of us actually going forward.
Thank you. I think consolidation has to come. You mentioned consolidation of insurers as well, because insurance companies, our markets remain extremely fragmented, and if you look at the premium volume per company, you will see that the concentration is in the hands of very few companies. So it's bound to happen, and I think brokers will have to follow. You were mentioning, Hamid, that we need to work hand in hand. Perhaps consolidation is the hand in hand you are referring to, and you are anticipating this trend. So thank you. I think with this we come to the end.
Exactly. Thank you very much for your valuable input. I'd like to invite Mr. Ala al-Zuhairi, Chairman of Insurance Federation of Egypt and the Organizing Committee, on stage to honor the speakers. And if we can have the shields, please. Okay. Mr. Joseph Azar, CEO of Nاسكو France. We want another picture. Okay. Mr. Amr Sartawi, CEO of Middle East and North Africa, Aon Benfield. Mr. Habib Jalouk, Executive Board Member, Shadidri. Mr. Omar Gemei, Managing Director, Marsh Egypt. And Mr. Wa'il Khatib, Chairman, MENA Operations locked on. Thank you very much, and this wraps up this panel. NASCO Re cordially invites you to the lunch to be held in honor of all the participants at 3 p.m. exactly at Soho Square, Savoy Charm Hotel. You can reach it just on this side. It's very close. And we always remind you that to know the locations and directions for every service and function, you can visit Sharmrand, and please don't forget to check QNB Al Ahli Life Maps. I would also like to tell you about a very exciting tournament that will take place later this evening. At 5 p.m. we have the first round of Sharm Rendezvous International Tennis Tournament for 2018. It will be held at 5 p.m. at Soho Square's main tennis court. So we look forward to seeing you all at the lunch and then the tennis. Thank you very much, and see you again tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.